Sangoma have you ever went to and they said, everything is fine?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Bisrat for Africa. In this particular episode, what we'll be doing is really zooming into this dark practice of ubungoma and the negative effects that it actually has on society. Now, a lot of people are saying we're going back to our roots, and we're seeing a whole lot of young people now saying they are Zangoma, they're being called by ancestors. Some children will go without attending school for about 6 months, and they'll come back with some registered and official document that actually says, I'm actually okay to just drop out of school for 6 months and go and do twasa and then come back, and you can't penalize me for it because the government of South Africa approves it. So we are a nation that is now accommodating this. Even we know that it is now difficult for us to even preach the gospel in schools, in campuses, because whenever we want to go in and preach, they're going to say, well, where's the slot for these guys, for Izangoma, right? So it's becoming more increasingly difficult for us to preach the gospel because we're a nation that is really turning away from the gospel. We're turning away from Christianity. But I want to say straight up that if you guys believe that we should actually accommodate this in our culture, accommodate this in our schools, there are lots of negative effects that we're feeling and seeing now. I mean, I mentioned in the other video that anyone who buys Muti, right? You might think, oh, I'm sick, let me go buy Muti. But these things are made out of human body parts, right? And so whenever you're doing that, know that you are contributing to this problem of human trafficking. So one of the ways that you can actually help people deal with human trafficking is stop using this medicine, which is made out of innocent people's body parts, right? But another hectic thing that is being now being performed in the name of ubungoma, what the traditional healers are actually doing is that when somebody, let's say it's a hitman, decides they want to shoot somebody, what they'll actually do is run to Isangoma and they'll actually perform a ritual of cleansing. And that ritual will basically help them to get away with it. And Minister Begicele, when he was still minister, actually appealed to the traditional healers and leaders in KZN because they were actually doing all these cleansing rituals for hitmen. And they were saying, basically, help us to catch these people. And there was an article that basically read, talking about 10 families in Pietermaritzburg who were gunned down in one particular month. And the police actually found the alleged hitman, the Inkabi, with a traditional healer who was about to perform a ritual cleansing to basically help this person get away with it, right? So this is a very common thing that is happening. And I want to show you guys just a few clips from an article that was in the SABC on Cutting Edge, talking about Izinkabi in 2023, basically exposing this practice. So we're going to look at this video and then give some commentary as we go.
Isiqalo nje uma ufuna kakhulu lezi amapolitiki njengekhansela uqala uyomhlolela fanele ngokuhlolela ukuthi uvika ngani imuphi umuntu oyisebenzisayo usebenzisa umuntu wale South Africa noma umuntu wangaphandle fanele ubuke kuqala uthole indoda lesebenzisa umuntu waseMozambique phethe malawo ayi unezihlahla zaseTanzania lo muntu okay mina sengiyazi ukuthi sengizoyijika kanjani angithi sengibukelile ukuthi uvika ngani mase ngiyaqala-ke ngibhila inhlamvu ngibhilela nenhlamvu ukuthi singanqaphi isibhamu noma kuthiwa udle lowo muthi leyo mina sengiyiskhenikha ngendlela yami ukuthi singanqaphi isibhamu mase sengiyafuna-ke manje ukuthi
what he's basically saying here is that what he would do if he wants to kill someone as a hitman, he'll first track that person down, investigate them, find out their name, surname, and then they'll basically go to a traditional healer. They'll track down this person's ancestral names, and then also find out, okay, so what protection Muti are they using, right? And then after they found out the Muti, and then they'll actually take the bullets to Isangoma, and the Sangoma will actually put Muti on this, on the bullets that he's going to use, so that even if the person, you know, has whatever strong Muti that is protecting them, it will actually penetrate them. Question number one, who is helping them to kill these people, right? And how are they helping them? So if it's Sangoma that is helping them and they are helping them by putting Muti, number one, Muti, is it something that we can say it's innocent, right? Muti, is it something that is used to harm people? Because the question is, where does the power for Muti come from? If these people are called by our ancestors and our ancestors give them powers to perform these things, in a sense, we can say it's the ancestors that are actually enabling this person to kill another person. This is basically the force behind ancestral worship. It is the dark forces that are enabling people, because you cannot tell me that these are our ancestors who are actually behind all of this thing. This is why we simply reject this thing as demonic and evil, because that's what it truly is. There's no ancestor of mine that I know who would enable me without calling me out and saying, don't do this. There's no God. The God of the Bible will always hold us accountable whenever we attempt to do these sort of things.
Now kufanele uhambe uyogeza, kufanele uhambe uyilungisa.
Sihambile saya kwaMhlaba uyalingana ukuyohlangana nesangoma ugogo Khumalo ukuyocela ukuthi akasihlaziyele ukuthi kwenziwa njani uma umuntu ehlambuluka emva kokuthi abulele ukuze angaboshwa.
Sanibona.
Ngomsebenzi wami engwenzayo mina ngiqala la ngiyahlola, ngiyafemba, ngiyabethela imizi yabantu, ngiyabasiza abantu abanenkinga angithi.
Asibange sisapholisa amaseko sibe sesimbuza ngendlela asebenza ngayo.
Ngiyamthatha mina, ngithatha isimo sembuzi, ngihamba naye emanzini anjani agijimayo. Ngitholile phela ukuthi umdubulile umuntu, phela ukudubula umuntu kuyicala.
So what this person is saying is she knows very well that this is a killer. She knows that this is a murderer. And she says killing people is a serious crime. So she knows exactly the nature, right? So this is the wisest people that we have in terms of the spirituality. These are the custodians of the so-called indigenous knowledge, right? These are the people who are the mediators. These are the people who understand what the ancestors have to say. So whatever they're saying, they are the representatives of this worldview. So we take it from them as they are explaining it. So she's basically saying we're all aware, but now just find out what she actually does. It's not like she's going to rebuke him and say, no, thou shalt not kill, because really in African spirituality, there actually is no concept of sin. So you can pretty much do anything and get away with it as long as you perform a ritual, right? And I'm going to explain the principle that I've been explaining to you guys over and over, that in African spirituality, God and creation and humanity are all one thing. You are God, you are creation, creation is you, and therefore you can manipulate God, you can manipulate creation by bringing down lightning and all these weird things, because all of these things are one. But the God of the Bible is outside of creation, therefore you cannot manipulate him. And I'm going to share a verse with you where God in the Bible actually says, I don't want your rituals if your hearts are far away from me. But let's finish the rest of the video.
Ngihambe naye angithengile okapho, sihambe semanzini anjani agijimayo, sifike emanzini.
So she basically says, I'll take this person to the river. They must buy an okapi. Okapi is basically that knife that you basically open. So they're basically going to go down to the river with this person to perform that ritual there.
Agijimayo, ngimgumule, ngimgeze, ngimdabe umzimba wonke.
So basically they wash them, they wash their whole body in the river.
Ngimgeze okapho ngivulile, emveni kwalokho ngiyayivala ini icala.
So they're basically saying the okapi is open while this person is being cleansed. And then after they've been cleansed, then they close the okapi to basically say the case has been closed.
Futhi lo muntu angasabuyeli kuye ngokuba mayibulela umuntu uyabuya phela isidalwa somuntu siyabuya kuye sikhulume naye. And then futhi imali ngiyayifuna asikwele.
I think this is the funniest part, but coming back to the fact that, okay, so one, we're closing the case so that the law. So in other words, you can kill people and get away with it in this worldview. No ancestors are going to call you out, right? Your traditional leaders are not going to call you out. It's a lawless a worldview that seeks to destroy society, that seeks to destroy the very fabric of how to build us. I mean, how do you build a society where there are no consequences? We might as well then say there's no law that says people should not actually kill. Should we just make it legal because these people are going to help people to get away with it? But the funny part is, in the end, she says, okay, after I've done all of this, money, I want my money, and money is not negotiable. You got to pay my money. And this is why these people are doing this. They're not doing this to connect you to no ancestors. They just want money, right? And so this is a transactional thing where if I manipulate God on your behalf and I manipulate, the universe and all these spiritual forces to bring favor on you, then what you do is then you just pay me. This is transactional, right? How is this not termed as religion? Because religion is about rituals, right? But Christianity, the way that Christ actually brought it to us, it was never about rituals. And that's why we see Jesus always clashing with people who are always focused on rituals. And the Pharisees were always about cleansing, right? You did something unclean, you got to get cleansed. If you're a leper, you got to get uncleansed. You always had to go there to worship. And I'm going to do a video tomorrow with Ulriki where now the Revelation Spiritual Church is saying we need to go to pilgrimage and actually start, people going up mountains to worship, speak to ancestors, to spiritual forces, all those weird things which in Christianity, you can speak to God where you're standing. There's no holy site in Christianity, right? Where you're standing, you can connect with God. That's why even Israel is not we can't even recognize it as a holy site, because the Bible tells us that God actually, his presence is now within us. It's not just in some temple, it's not in some mountain. It's not about worshiping in Israel, but we can worship God where we are. It's not about these rituals that people are performing. Because the problem with these rituals is that their hearts can remain far away. So you're a murderer inside. But as long as you perform the ritual, right, you'll be fine. That's what the Sangoma was saying. Right, so that's in a nutshell, she won't negotiate on the money side, right? So I want to share this verse with you just to help you understand the biblical perspective on rituals. Anything that's a ritual, anything, whether it's going to church, right? Whether it's praying, whether it's tithing, whatever it is that you might want to do, an act that you might do as a form of worship or way of connecting to God. Isaiah chapter 1 verse 11 says, the multitude of sacrifices, what are they to me, says the Lord? I have more than enough burnt offerings of rams and the fat of the fattened animals. I have no pleasure in the blood of bulls and lambs and goats. When you come to appear before me, who has asked this of you? This trampling of my courts. Stop bringing meaningless offerings. Your incense is detestable to me. New moons, Sabbaths, and convocations. I cannot bear your worthless assemblies, your new moons, feasts, and your appointed festivals. I hate with all my being. They have become a burden to me. I'm weary of bearing them. When you spread out your hands in prayer, I hide my face. Even when you offer many prayers, I am not listening. Your hands are full of blood. I think that last part in the end, when God says, when you spread your hands out in prayer, I hide my eyes from you. Even when you offer many prayers, right? You can pray until you're blue in the face with the God of the Bible. You can go to church 7 times a week. You can pay 1 million, right? So in African spirituality, if you pay the Sangoma, everything is all good, but you can pay whatever you want to the God of the Bible, but he will not accept it. Because if your heart is far away from God, if your hands are full of blood, if you have murdered people, how can you come before the living God with dirty hands like that, right? God wants to point you towards the sin that you have committed. This is the main problem that I have with this sort of worldview, is that it is a worldview for me, really, that it's a worldview that really doesn't prioritize morality. And I think that South Africa will become more and more immoral, and the more and more we embrace African spirituality, because Christianity will say, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder. But there's nowhere where in African spirituality, there's the God of African spirituality saying this is wrong. The ancestors don't see that it's wrong. The spiritual healers don't see that it's wrong if you just pay them money. So these are the evil things that are being done. These are just a few cases of evil things. There's human trafficking, there's crime, there's murder, there's all these sort of things that really need to be exposed. When people are entering into this thing, they need to know that this is not part of your identity. You're not defined by these things, but actually you can be set free from these things. And I think that we can say a lot about the missionaries. Oh, they looked down on African culture, and I think they did, but they were right when they said, actually, this stuff is not good. This is witchcraft. They were right when they called this stuff witchcraft. It is completely linked with witchcraft. And this is why our parents actually left this sort of thing. This is why our forefathers actually embraced Christianity and left these things. They weren't brainwashed, right? They weren't, someone said, let's grab the Bible and then close your eyes and pray, and then they had the land and all that stuff. I think there was a lot of deception, a lot of misuse of the Bible, right? We're quite open about that. But I think there are a lot of people who left these practices because they understood what they truly were, and they understood how fundamentally different the gospel and Christianity was compared to these sort of things. So this is my analysis, and I've got a video I'm coming up with Ricky tomorrow, and then I'm going to be doing a reaction video to a guy who actually was a Sangoma, who actually announced and said, we use the human body parts. So people need to choose, man. Are they going to walk in darkness? Are they going to follow these dark practices, or are they going to come to the light, come to the true and living God? It's Bisrat for Africa, a channel dedicated to giving you truth, to giving you commentary, and really opening your eyes to all of these dark things. We'll see you guys on the next video.